day and welcome to Lena Media TV News. I am Victoria broadcasting from Canada and these are the headlines for today's stories. Ethiopia's swearing party should end attacks on women and girls. UN deploys troops in disputed Abyei after an attack leaves 11 dead. UN agrees to replace Ethiopian forces within UNISFA. Ethiopian Djibouti agreed to work on border security peacekeeping. Bringing you this and more in detail after the short break. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back from that short break. Now news in detail. Ethiopian swearing party should end attacks on women. For 16 months in an often hidden and ignored armed conflict in northern Ethiopia, wherein parties have doubly victimized women and girls, subjecting them to widespread horrific acts of sexual violence and then deliberately obstructing their access to care. International Women's Day, March 8th, is an important time to reflect on the plight of these women and girls and ending it. In the Tigray region, where the conflict broke out in November 2020, Ethiopian federal and allied forces, including Eritrean government and Amhara forces, subjected Tigrayan women and girls to sexual violence and deliberately attacked healthcare facilities. Tigrayan militia also raped Eritrean refugees. When the conflict spread to the Amhara region in July 2021, women and girls raped by Tigrayan forces struggled to receive care in areas under those forces' control. Civilians describe a public health system intact as due to fighting, looting, and the flight of medical personnel. Since late June 2021, the Ethiopian government has effectively besieged Tigray, largely blocking and including food, medical supplies, and fuel from entering the region, while maintaining a blackout shutdown of banking, telecommunication, and electricity. Without needed humanitarian assistance, survivors of sexual violence and those trying to help them have been left reeling. Survivors are denied access to critical medical and psychological care, while being forced to confront shortages of food and restriction on other key services needed to rebuild their lives. Instead of expanding operations to deliver desperately needed support, survivors, aid agencies have been forced to downsize or halt operations because of the denial of humanitarian access. Without caution for it's really difficult to reach the people in need was a refrain we repeatedly heard from service providers in late 2021. The Ethiopian government and regional authorities should end the effective siege on the civilian population in Tigray and with international support facilitate the scaling up of a robust, principled humanitarian response throughout northern Ethiopia. All warring parties in Ethiopia should take action to end abuses by their forces, including rape and other sexual violence against women and girls. International Women's Day is just one reason why today Ethiopian international and regional partners should be clear that humanitarian access is not a political bargaining chip but a legal obligation. Concrete measures need to be taken against those hampering aid to inflict harm. Moving on to the other story, UN deploys troops in disputed Abyei after an attack leave 11 dead. The United Nations Interim Security Force for Abyei has deployed forces in Darkop village of Abyei town after an attack on civilians left at least 11 people dead and 7 others injured, according to area deputy administrator. Speaking to the East African on Tuesday, Kon Mayak said one person is missing following the attack. The attack happened on Sunday. They did random shooting on the civilian, he said, can return to the area after UNISFA deployed its troops there. In January last year, an attack on Dinka village in Abyei left at least 19 people dead and dozens others injured, according to UNISFA. After days of negotiations, 6 children who were reportedly abducted during the clashes were returned. Days after the incident, activists urged Juba, Khartoum, UN, and the African Union to fast-track the designation of Abyei to avoid future conflict. In the following months, South Sudan and South Sudan and Sudan agreed to form a joint team to look into violent clashes. The consensus was reached after President Salva Kiir met with Sudan Deputy Leader of the Transitional Sovereign Council, Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, in Juba over the matter in response to an outcry over the incident. They later announced the two had agreed to form a joint team of investigators as well as a response force made up of soldiers from both countries to protect civilians. However, the findings of the committee are yet to be made public. There is a contested border between Sudan and South Sudan. The two countries are yet to agree on the flow of the border since a section of South Sudan from Sudan in 2011. Last year, the UNISFA warned of the possibility of renewed clashes despite the ongoing peace effort in the area. UNISFA was deployed on June 2011 to protect civilians under imminent threat of physical violence and protect the area from insecurity by unauthorized militant. Civil society groups, however, said the area was attacked mostly because the UN forces did not counter it. There are 3,550 soldiers, 640 police personnel, including 148 individual police officers and 3 from police units deployed in Abia. As is tradition with most blue helmets, they are non-combat troops meant to defend civilians and prevent occurrence of violence. The UNISFA, whose headquarters are located in Abia Town, operating in 3 sectors, Sector North, Sector Central, and Sector South, with sector headquarters at the Abia Town area, and Anthony respectively. South Sudan and Sudan are yet to agree on a joint administration, including a police force for the Abia area. The area has faced occasional violent and cattle rustling incidents. In 2019, the Undersecretary of the UN Peacekeeping Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, called on South Sudan and Sudan to use their cardinal bilateral relations to resolve the state of Abia region. Moving on, UN agrees to replace Ethiopian forces within UNISFA. The United Nations has agreed to replace thousands of Ethiopian forces within the UN Interim Security Force. Chairman of Sudan Traditional Sovereign Council, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, received a phone call from Jean-Pierre, the UN Under-Secretary General for Peace Cooperation, in which the two sides discussed agreement for replacing the Ethiopian forces upon Sudan's request. The Sovereign Council said in a statement, al-Burhan promised to remove all barriers and challenges facing the mission. Lucro said the replacement operation will begin in February and last until March 2022. Earlier, Sudan demanded replacement of the Ethiopian forces within the UNISFA in the wake of a border dispute with Ethiopia. The UNISFA was established in 2011 by the UN Security Council to monitor the Abia border. It is mainly composed of Ethiopian forces of around 4,200 troops and 50 police personnel. Now moving on to the last story, Ethiopia and Djibouti agreed to work on border security peacekeeping. As of March 8, 2022, Ethiopia and Djibouti have agreed to work jointly on security training, provisions, and peacekeeping, the Ethiopian National Defense Force said. The 9th Djibouti Defense Chief of Staff meeting was held here at END headquarters. It was indicated following the meeting, Chief of Staff of Ethiopian National Defense Force Field Marshal Birhanu Jula and his Djibouti counterpart, General Zakaria Chen Ibrahim, agreed to scale up cooperation between the defense forces of the two countries. Ethiopia and Djibouti have seized an accord on joint border patrols, information exchange, counter-terrorism, cultural exchanges, training, counter-terrorism, and peacekeeping operations, it was learned. Speaking on occasion, Field Marshal Birhanu said Ethiopia and Djibouti have historical and long-standing relations and joint brotherhood in terms of culture and language. Birhanu said that the two countries, which have agreed to work as strategic, technical, and cooperation alliance, is of great significance to regional peace and security. He further said that Ethiopia and Djibouti are the seat of various international and continental organizations. According to the two countries, in particular, will be at the forefront to consolidate their role in peacekeeping mission, Field Marshal Bahanu underscored. On his part, Djiboutian Chief of Staff General Zakaria Chek Ibrahim recorded a memorandum of understanding the two countries have signed to prevent various crimes in the border areas. This is where I end the news on Alena Media TV. I am Victoria, and thanks for watching.